is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at DorothyLaneMusic.com. Yeah. Hey friends. Happy New Year. It's 2021. This is my first recording of the podcast of the year. And I just want to say I feel awesome. And I can't complain right now. Yeah. So let's just say, those positive changes that I had been wondering when I was going to be able to get around to, when that certain something was going to strike me to cause me to make the change, it came. So I'm just going to say, sort of like prayers are answered, and it's a day at a time. It's one step at a time. It's one, it's just gradual progress. But anyways, welcome to the show. If you are a new listener, welcome. And welcome. If you are a return listener, gosh, thanks guys for sticking around. I know it's been a while since the last episode. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny, folks. I had been recording segments here and there as I do, and at some point, I had like a bunch of segments for other content for other things stored on my recorder, and then one day I did an OS update on the device, and everything was gone. So for the life of me, I can't remember, as far as this podcast, exactly what was lost. And I hope the dirty stuff was lost, but don't worry, I'll recap some of the dirty stuff. And I can't remember, I remember recording stuff that I deemed as dirty, not dirty as in like, gross sexual and harmful. It's just what I call like a dark space where I was going to last year, So I remember recording a bunch of stuff around like, oh gosh, I'm struggling here, I'm struggling there. Like everybody else is struggling, but my own demons, my own sort of challenges, and my own sort of like, stuff. And so, fast forward to today, I'm like, whoo, I'm glad all of that is over, but I'm also thankful that I'm through it, because it's stuff that, I need to know where I've been so that I can know not to go back to. And I'll get to that, right? I don't want to like cram it all in. But yeah, any surprise, I'm on the road. I gotta run some errands for the household. I did just come back from a run. Did a long, slow 2 hours, and I'm not gonna complain. I was hoping to cover at least a half mile more, but you know what? I committed to the time, not the distance, and that's what I did. yeah, so I guess we'll start off the first episode of the year with a What's Cooking segment. But before I do that, let's take a quick break. All right. That was a break. I am back from running doing my duties as an errand boy. Now, what were we talking about? We were talking about what's cooking, right? What is cooking? Now, the one thing that comes to mind is a surprise to me. It's a wonderful surprise. It is basically liver pate. And then everyone just cringed or is about to shut off their podcast player. Yeah, liver pate. Years ago, I wanted to, try to add organ meats to my diet. And I took calf liver. I bought calf liver from, frozen calf liver from the market. And I did sort of a lazy job at trying to find out how to best prepare it, and I was determined to like it. So I'll take a strip, but more like a fillet of calf liver, and then I'll soak it in buttermilk, right? And I'll let it soak for like overnight or something, and then I'll cook it on a pan. Then it'll be awesome. It wasn't awesome. I treated it other ways. I forgot what else I did. I think maybe I used olive oil or something. I don't know. Wasn't awesome. And really difficult. So, still determined to have calf liver in my diet. I decided to abandon cooking it and opted to just, cut up little tiny frozen chunks into little capsule type sizes, and just as I was able to remember, I would go, I'm gonna take some calf liver, and I would just swallow it down like a capsule. So, it wasn't on a regular basis. It was a time to time thing, and then eventually, I just lost interest. And, I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And that was that. And I didn't care about it. It didn't matter anymore. But the best that I was able to do had nothing to do with adding too many organ meats to my diet. Whenever I would have a Vietnamese pho soup, I would ask not just for the raw beef, but also the tripe and the tendons and all of that stuff. So, I was getting something that was not muscle meat, but it wasn't like liver or spleen or kidney or heart. So anyways, this time around, I had the desire to retry putting liver in my diet. So, went to the store, picked up another package of frozen calf liver. I was like, no idea what I was going to do with it. No idea. I was thinking, maybe my tastes have changed, and maybe I'll be able to enjoy it like a really fine ribeye. And so on my way home from the grocery store that day, I looked up, I think I looked up what's a good way to enjoy liver. And one of the first things I found was liver pate, and I'm like, okay, let's go see what's in this liver pate. I think, I enjoyed some good liver pate in a place in Berkeley, which is no longer, and I remember thinking, I've got to figure out how to make liver this way, because this seems to be the most acceptable way for me to enjoy liver. So I came upon a recipe. It was very simple. I'm like, totally doable. And so I took calf liver, and I sliced it up into small strips, And on a medium to high heat pan, I melted some Kerrygold butter, threw in some minced garlic, actually a bunch of minced garlic, till it got kind of soft. That garlic got soft, and then I put in the slivers of liver, about a minute on each side, as best as possible. To if it gets really gelatinous when it gets thawed out, so. Not just trying to get familiar with its sort of its composition, but it was basically like Jell-O. It held on to a little bit of its fiber, but it's like, whoa, it wasn't like muscle meat. So about a minute on each side, and then removed everything, the butter, the garlic, the liver. I set it aside to cool for about 5 minutes. And then I put it in the blender, threw in more butter, and I basically whipped that thing up, processed that thing into a smooth paste, and while it was churning, I added heavy whipping cream and some salt, and scooped that all out, put it in a small glass bowl, and then I sprinkled gelatin, beef gelatin, for a more collagen sort of component to it, and I sprinkled it over it, and I mixed it up really good, and then I put it in the refrigerator to cool, and that's that. Amazing. Well, that's what's cooking.
Do you need a website? If you're an individual, a consultant, a group, or small business and need a site, or maybe you have an existing site, I can help. How about graphic design? Do you need a design for a t-shirt, logo, product, business cards? Maybe you need help with designing and developing a brand. I'm not an expert, but I do have the tools and the techniques to get the job done. How about a podcast? Yep, like this thing. This thing's a silly little show. Are you looking to set up a podcast of your own? Are you looking to reach an audience? Promote your business via podcast? Well, Abadam Studios. That's right, Abadam Studios. Yeah, so that's Abadam Studios. AbadamStudios.com, AbadamStudios.com. Check it out.
All right, and let's cross over into family chat. Family and play. A lot's happened. A lot that happened leading to the new year with the family. Let's see. Again, can't tell whether or not my previous chat about the week before Thanksgiving and going on a sort of a RV camping trip with the family, if that made it in the past, and if that actually made it into an episode, because I lost a bunch of recordings, but basically what happened was the family, amidst this sort of pandemic, we've chosen certain times of the month or every other month to rent a place, not a hotel room or anything like that, but rent a home via Airbnb or VRBO, and basically park ourselves there for several days, sometimes as long as a week. Since the kids are or have been learning remote, so and basically isolate, shelter in place in another place. In other words, we're not the only ones that kind of go at it this way. It's a way for us to feel like we're going on vacation, but we're not on vacation. And typically what that looks like is we pack our stuff like we ordinarily would go on a trip, but we wouldn't plan to like trips to a park or theme park or anything like that. We would be just settling into a different place. We'll have a big old bag of supplies, and even though a place that we stay would take their level of precautions to clean and do extra cleaning and things, we'll still go in once we step into a place, and we'll still do our level of additional disinfecting, just so that we participate in that as well. We could never know. So, got the Lysol sprays, and we're spraying down a bunch of surfaces and things. Switches, toilet handles, knobs, a bunch of stuff. So yeah, and we've taken several, and it's been fun. It's been fun, and we're almost at the point where we're looking back and realizing we did a bunch of trips in 2020 that were these sort of shelter in place but away shelter in place, and it's been fun. We've been I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's a great way, in a weird way, that we're in this predicament, but it allows us all to be together and stay together throughout the day. The kids are in school remote. My wife and I are working remote, so we get to have a lot of interaction and be in each other's presence more than we ever would be on, pre-pandemic, right? And pre-pandemic, I've talked about it before. It's just weird. It's like, a couple hours in the morning, and everyone goes off to work and school, and then several hours in the evening, when there's pickups and things, and dinner time and bedtime, and all to do it all over again, only to have the weekend to do that type of stuff. At least this way, the kids are spending more FaceTime or interaction or presence with around each other than they ordinarily would. It's kind of like, and there's different levels. Like right now, kids will break out into their own sort of school, work from home, or remote learning sort of space at home. One son's in his room, another son's in his room, and my daughter's on her desk in the living room, because she's the youngest, so we have to monitor and sort of help her through stuff. But everyone's in their own space, and then at the end of the school period, or it's when they all come together and they sort of they goof off. Even more of an indication of how they basically don't have a lot of interactivities when you put them into the confines of a vehicle. At certain time of the afternoon, the family will head out and we'll go and maybe get something at the store or whatever. And so now everyone's crammed up in this little space on wheels, right? And they get really super chatty with each other. Something that we don't see at home, because there's more space for them to spread out and do stuff. But once they're all kind of jammed in this little tin can, they're asking each other questions, and they're going back and forth with ideas. They're annoying each other, more. So it's tough as parents, because it's like, oh God, you guys are like, 2 feet from each other, and you guys have to like raise your voice, tone it down, right? And I have to remind myself, you know what? It's so cool that we all have each other right now. So, it's so cool. So, speaking of trips, the most recent trip was after Christmas and for New Year's.
we knew we wanted to take another trip around the holidays because we just sometimes you just feel like if we can't be at home surrounded by relatives, then let's go do something else and let's just go away. But because we had a tree and a bunch of gifts, we weren't gonna plan a trip for Christmas that needed us to not enjoy the tree and also haul a bunch of gifts with to the trip. That didn't seem good. I like the idea of the kids waking up on Christmas morning and just enjoying the day like that. So we chose to do an after Christmas trip that trickled over to the new year. And what we did was we stayed at a place in around the San Bernardino Mountains. So it meant that we would be around snow, and it was an adventure. It was an adventure because it was the first time that I've had to actually throw on the chains on the tire chains, the snow chains or whatever, and check-in was a bit late. There was a bunch of traffic leading through the mountain because everyone else had to throw on their chains and everybody else had to deal with for us it was super unfamiliar driving through ice and snow and whatever. More like ice. Yeah. As we made our way up, the navigation said to go a certain route, and from an overall navigation standpoint, okay, you could see what was happening. We were being routed sort of the quickest way, but as you may guess, what appears on a map to be the quickest way may not necessarily mean it's the easiest way, meaning if you're on icy roads because, the day before there was a bit of a snowstorm and it doesn't take into account that, if you're cutting through, say, neighborhoods or small towns, in the mountains, you don't know where there are hills and things, and on icy roads, chains or not, that could be a problem. And for us, getting off the main highway, taking a left turn off of the main highway, in the mountains to onto a road that was just a little hill proved to be impossible. Took a turn, stopped because there was traffic. Something's bumping on my wheel. Do I have a tire issue? As I talk about traction. Something's going on. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm distracted. I'm kind of my wheels are thumping, so I got something going on with my wheel. I gotta double check this. Hold on. No, I'm still rolling with inflated wheels. I think something else might be going on. Hard to tell. I don't know if it's the roads or if it's the vehicle. Yeah, there's basically some weird... Oh. Idiot! So, I had my emergency brake engaged.
it's so funny because I've been doing that a lot in this vehicle. Anyways, so yeah, basically en route to checking in, late check-in. It was dark. It was, there was a lot of cars. There was traffic. I took my left turn onto a road, and others were ahead of us, and they stopped at the base of this road, the start of the road, which is a base of a hill. And some people made it up, but most people couldn't make it up. People with chains, people without chains. So there was a lot of like, okay, what the heck do we do now? What do we do now? First, if we try to get roadside, it's going to take hours for any roadside to make it, because everyone else looks like they're going to be needing roadside. And for folks who live in places that get a lot of snow throughout the year, this is probably stuff that they're so used to. I can handle, some snow and some ice, but then you throw in like the mountain roads, then I'm just like, I'm not having fun. So I had to play around with going at it with the chains. Didn't work. It's just spun and sparked. Idiot. Then kind of safely sort of try to get out of the way, and then played around with, okay, I'm going to remove the chains and try and make it up. Made it up a little bit more, but still no luck. So this is impossible. So had to reset. Ended up putting the chains back on. But there was a lot, and some of us were I was working with a woman who was by herself, giving her, letting her know like what we were trying to do, and then give her ideas of what she can try to do, make it up the road. And her decision was to just leave her vehicle, and she met up with somebody who was going to. She was just going to wait for someone to pick her up and try and make it out the next day, Oh my God. But not us. We couldn't do that. We had like a car full of family in the car and a bunch of luggage. There's, where are we going to go? Who are we going to go with? And it's not going to happen. So we just went another route. We just ended up going a different route. I carefully put my chains back on, and then I turned around and went around a different route, and managed to make it closer to the property, only to deal with another hill, and working it out. Bottom line, just again removing the chains and making my way up the road to where the property was, and. Just to finish the thought, got to the property, and still a lot of details I'm leaving out, because at the end of the evening, when I finally got into the house and everything offloaded, I was just exhausted. I was close to I have no idea, like, I don't know, it was close to a bonk. It was ridiculous, but it as close as we were to the house, we were at the start of the street of where the address was, but it was another hill and couldn't get up. Same dilemma, and contacted one of the folks from the property to let them know, what our dilemma was, and fortunately, one of the three that are managing the property was actually local in the mountains. So it took him 10 minutes to come over, and what he did was he basically got the family up the road to where the house was. Which is kind of funny because, yes, there's a business relationship here, but we don't know if the guy is a maniac psycho, and I sent him off with my wife and kids. But as soon as, everyone had left me with the van, I took another stab at taking the vehicle up the road and seeing how far I could go. And I think I went like a third or a fourth of my way up the road before I got kind of stuck in the ice again. And kind of just parked it there and waited for the property guy to come down and meet me so we can figure out what we could do. I figured, he's from the area. There's some like best practices and things that, folks do, whether it's, drive a certain way or have his vehicle, aid mine and push it up the hill, or I don't know, or just something like, typically folks will just leave their vehicle as is, out of the way, out of traffic, and it'll be fine where it's at, and we can deal with it the next day. I don't know. Was hoping for something. So it ended up with, let's give it another try with the chains. So with him sort of observing and giving me pointers on how to slowly and gradually make it work, And so we gave that a shot, and I kind of went up, made a little bit of progress, not a whole lot, until I started spinning my wheels again. It's a front wheel drive, right? We're driving a Honda van, and someone from the neighborhood had came out and saw what was going on. He had his coat on. It was really cold and stuff, and as soon as I stopped, making a fuss with my vehicle, he made it a point to let me know, what he knows. He's like, I've seen this a lot of times coming up the road. People come up with their chains, and chains like yours, and they have the same problem. He says, those chains aren't going to work on the roads with ice on it, the way it currently is. The chains that I have, they're not really chains. They're more like cables wrapped around with like rings of stuff, like a coil or something. And basically what happens is the rings around the cable, the cross cables, just turn, they roll as my wheel tries to spin. So there is no traction. And I don't know any different. It would have been the first time I've ever had to use these things on the tires. I figured they were all the same, But he's like, what you want to do is kind of coast back down, or bring yourself back down to where you started last. Remove the chains, and he says, so there's enough of these little gravelly sort of bits on the road that'll give you the traction you need to come up the road. So, take the chains off, give yourself a running start, and, go, right? Just go, just keep on going. And then if, and don't worry, like if you're getting too fast and you, and you're worried that you won't be able to stop safely because of the ice, just run into one of these things off the side of the road. And he was pointing out, how there's a lot of high levels of snow off to the side of the road that'll just sort of catch me. So, I thanked him for his insight and his suggestion, and he was 100% certain that was going to work, and it was counterintuitive to me without the experience, thinking like, well, isn't that what chains are supposed to do, or these cable chains are supposed to do? But it made sense, the type of chains were spinning as I turned my wheels, and there was no traction. It's like trying to run a sprint with roller skates on your feet, right? It's stupid. So I looked over at the property guy, I said, what do you think? Should I give it a shot? He says, yeah. So then we did exactly what was prescribed, and sure enough, made it all the way to the property. And then when I got to the property, it was the driveway went upwards. So it was like, great. How am I going to get into the garage? So I, given the angles of the road and the ice and all of the snow, the easiest thing for me to attempt was to back up over the garage and then give it a shot to see if I could actually make my way up into it. But the ice at the base of the ice on the road and the base of the driveway just wasn't going to make it happen. So we just called it quits there and just left the van parked on the driveway, on most of the vehicle parked on the driveway, that and in a way that definitely didn't obstruct the street. So was happy about that, and got everything offloaded. And we're up in the mountains, and the house is basically like split level, so it's actually, the address is actually two separate units, two separate suites, and ours was the furthest back, which was higher up on the hill. So had the equivalent of 3 flights of stairs to still had to contend with. I had luggage and other cargo, and no one's really there to help me. The little kids are all sort of just staying safe and warm in the property. My wife's with them, and I'm like, it's just kind of like my life, right? Just deal with all the baggage, and then exhausting, man, exhausting. And that was getting to the property, and the trip was fun. There was a lot of time spent dealing with ice on the driveway and trying to better position the vehicle. With the help of another sort of tenant at the address, he helped me navigate and figure out, how to get up the driveway, and so it was a good learning experience. And we've since then bought real chains, right? Whether or not they'll work, but they're definitely not cables with rings that'll spin when you drive. They're legit chains. So we're trying to better prepare ourselves. Even things like having a sack of salt, ice melt, just to provide some traction, and I don't know, folks like Lonnie are probably laughing because it was totally out of my element with all the ice on the road and things, and it's like, to him it's like nothing. Anyways, that was that.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.